Welcome to another episode of This Woman Works, episode 27. And I brought on someone that has done a lot of things and done things her way, walking this way, her way. That would be Miss Lena Pringle. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning. I'm great. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Looking outside, it was gloomy a minute ago. Now it's sunshine outside. I don't know. Maybe it's because you're on the show. I don't know.
Listen, I got sunshine galore here in Indianapolis, so I'll take all the sun on a hump day. Okay.
There we go. But yeah, we're going to get into your journey and your, basically your journey over life to where you are now. Kind of bring people into that and hopefully maybe inspire or maybe educate some people as well. We're going to get into that and more. But before we get started, like every episode, we do the Black Girl Magic Moment. And on this episode, I want to talk about a particular young woman that I've met multiple times. She actually, I don't know, I think she actually remembered who I was one time when I was kind of shocked. That would be Elle Duncan. For those that don't know, Elle Duncan is currently the sports anchor on ESPN right now. She's on the 6 o'clock show, 6 o'clock Eastern show with Kevin Nagandi. And of course, if you don't know her from there, you know her from seeing her with Andrea Carter and Shanae Gumake on ESPN talking women's college basketball and WNBA, which I love that they do. They bring so much great energy and education to the game. I love it. I mean, Elle is definitely the point guard of that show, and she definitely teases it up for them to, hit the shots as well. But just giving you a little background on Elle, she actually began her career in Atlanta as an intern with Two Live Stews on 790 The Zone, which a lot of people may not know. But yeah, she started off doing that. But she didn't actually stay in sports the entire time. She actually, a year later, was hired with the Ryan Cameron show, V103, as a traffic reporter and on-air personality. Would also do, during that same time, doing Atlanta Falcons radio pre- and post-game shows, a Hawks sideline reporter, and a freelance sideline reporter for SEC and ACC games on the Comcast Sports South Network, which now is the FanDuel Network. It's changed a few names. Of course, 2013 traffic reporter job she took at an NBC affiliate in Atlanta, which, shows the versatility. In 2014, she was there a year, joined the NESN, New England Sports Network, as an anchor reporter and host, and also as a sideline reporter for the Boston Red Sox, and hosted coverage of Super Bowl, the 2014 Super Bowl between the New England Patriots and Seattle Seahawks in Glendale, Arizona, the one where, everyone said that Marshawn Lynch should have run the football instead of Russell Wilson throwing the football. Of course, Malcolm Brown with the interception. And there you go. Of course, she joined SportsCenter in April 2016, where she is currently now doing her thing. And I just had to recognize her because she brings herself authentically to pretty much everything she does. She does not hide anything of who she is, which I can greatly appreciate it. She does great, wonderful things. She also does things in terms of giving back as well. And I want to give my respects to Miss Elle Duncan on the Black Girl Magic Moment for This Woman Works, episode 27. Lena, you got anything you want to add?
Yes, I've actually had the privilege of meeting Elle a few times now by way of NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists. I've been able to meet her at a few of our national conventions, and she has had such a great personality. I've gotten to take pictures with her, and I have always appreciated just her groundedness. Like, no matter how big she gets, how viral she goes, where her career takes her, whenever she gets back into organizations like a NABJ or an effort to give back to the community, she's always solid. And she's never like too big of a star to talk to younger journalists, especially women of color. So shout out to Elle. She's always had a great personality, and I've thoroughly enjoyed being able to run into her and meet her during our conventions with NABJ.
Yes, yes. For those who aren't clear, I actually met her at NABJ as well. I didn't
Mhm.
say that at first, but yeah, that was where I first met her,
Mhm.
and that is where I secondly met her again this past year in Chicago. Which also, like I said, shocked that she actually remembered who I was. Well, I was like, hold on, what? She actually remembered who? Huh?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna move on, of course, to the show, and it is about you on this show, but we know where you are now, as for those that are watching, journalist, model, host, and instructor, but we have to go back to the beginning.
Mhm.
Young Lena. Now, where did you grow up?
So I am originally from South Carolina. I was born in Lancaster, South Carolina, but raised in both Lancaster and Columbia, South Carolina. My parents were divorced, and my dad lived in Lancaster. My mom lived in Columbia. So I spent the majority of my time growing up in between two cities, one really small in South Carolina, and then the other is the capital. So yeah, South Cackalack till I die, baby, the 803. That is where I am from, and very grateful to have roots that always bring me back to the South.
Now, you mentioned growing up in a small town and then also growing up in a big town, Columbia, the capital of South Carolina. How was it growing up in those different contrasts of cities?
Yeah, so I spent like elementary, middle school, and my first year of high school predominantly in Columbia, South Carolina. I would go and visit my dad on the weekends. And so, like, I got a taste of Lancaster, but it was always like, that's that small town where my dad lives, with my mom's in like the big hip town. But then that all changed at 15 when I left Columbia, South Carolina, and moved to Lancaster, South Carolina with my dad and finished the rest of high school. That was a very different experience. I went from a city that had multiple high schools, very large high schools, to a city that had one as the main high school. The amount of people that I ended up going from like a larger high school to a much smaller high school. But honestly, I love being able to have the versatility of being raised and spending time in Columbia, South Carolina. It taught me how to appreciate bigger cities because it's still not, I've lived in much bigger cities since then. So it's still not the biggest city, but it's much bigger than Lancaster. But living in Lancaster gave me a hometown feel that it won't ever be duplicated or replicated anywhere else. I just went back to Lancaster actually to host my high school homecoming tailgate. They do like a large tailgate now for all the other years from like the 1970s all the way to the 2020s. And being
Mhm.
able to go back home and have people recognize me and see people that I remembered from when I was a kid doing like cheerleading camps at Lancaster High School, all the way up to graduating and now being an adult and having a whole profession. There's nothing like being from a small country southern town. The types of skills and personality traits, the kindness. A motto for South Carolina is beautiful places, smiling faces. And that is definitely something that is consistently reinforced in those smaller towns. And my family's also from some like really small country towns in South Carolina too. So
Mhm.
it's just a part of my life. And I love that I got the experience of having small town and big city life while growing up. Gave me a lot of versatility.
Okay. All right. So within that versatility, I know you saw different things that maybe have, kind of I guess shaped you as
Mhm.
well growing up. So in that being said, what was one of the first things that you thought of that you wanted to be when you grow up?
Yeah, I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be a journalist. It's what I wanted to do since I was 8 years old. I used to watch the morning news with my mom and my stepdad. At that time, I used to be infatuated with morning news anchors. I remember I loved looking at their clothes, but I really admired how they spoke. So back when I was 8 years old, while I had these dreams of having like the Lena show and being on TV and doing news, I had a speech impediment. I stuttered severely for essentially up until 14. I didn't really stop stuttering consistently until I was 14. So around the age of 8, while I had these dreams and aspirations of being on TV, it seemed like something that would never happen for me because I couldn't speak without stuttering. And so after going to speech therapy, having several years of that, I was able to finally knock the stuttering at 14. But yeah, that dream was birthed from a time where my reality did not match at all the passions that I had or would grow into. But yeah, journalism is what I wanted to do since I was little. I think at one point, maybe when I was like 5 years old, I used to want to be a pediatrician, but I quickly found out in like first, second, third grade, I was not good at math. And math was never really a strong suit of mine. And I thought that you had to know math to be a doctor. And I was like, yeah, nah, none of that's for me. So journalism has been the thing that I've wanted to do really since I was young and could conceptualize what a future career would look like or what I would actually be interested in doing.
Okay. All right. All right. So journalism has been in the bag for a while. So,
Yeah.
as far as your career, we're going to go into that and talk about your career and, journalism and all the other different things that have now been put in the bag as well. We're going to do that right after this commercial break on This Woman Works.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off on these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these the EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, and we are back on This Woman Works, episode 27, Miss Lena Pringle. Now, of course, before anyone asks me, yes, that is a beard commercial on This Woman Works. Yes, it is. Let me explain why I put it on this show. Now, fellas, if you're listening, ladies, you can probably go ahead and, co-sign this. A lot of time, fellas, we don't know how to really take care of ourselves very well. And a lot of times those things that keep being mentioned to us, like going to the doctor or using something for your face or your hair or whatever, are mentioned to us by the women in our lives, whether it be your wives, your girlfriends, your cousins, your aunties, whoever. So that is why EBO Beard Butter commercial is on this show, because, hey, maybe somebody sees that and say, hey, I'm tired of my husband, boyfriend, brother, whoever, running around with this scruffy beard. He need to take care of himself. There we go. So, Lena, I know you probably were looking like, okay, this commercial on this show.
I know. Listen, I understand cross marketing. I'm never going to judge. All right. Listen, every woman has a man or somebody in their lives that could, accommodate. So I thought it was good marketing. So yeah, no, I wasn't questioning it.
I get that question from time to time. So I'm like, hey, let me go ahead and answer that real quick on the show. I probably say that I like actually giving the explanation because I think it's fun to give it. But yeah, getting back to the show, of course, your career in journalism now, of course, you did actually follow through and, go into journalism. How was it when you first got into journalism? How was it first when that feeling when you got into it?
Yeah, well, I think that's a little bit of a layered question because it was something that I was working toward for years, like from 8 to 21, like going and focusing on that and doing internships. I did learn TV when I was in high school. Then when I got to college, doing the different types of journalism and communication courses, a bunch of different internships. Then I went and got a master's at Syracuse. So really, like, even getting to the first like official local news job because I did a bunch of freelance stuff while I was in DC, did sports, was covering entertainment. But to get into local traditional news and to have that first job actually be full circle and bring me back to Columbia, South Carolina, my hometown, the dream in which the area that it was birthed in the city. And so to come back full circle almost 2 decades later and have that be the first official start of my job, not even 2 decades later, honestly, like 15 years later. Beautiful. Like I don't think there ever will be an amount of words that can articulate that kind of feeling, because it was one thing to get my first official traditional local news job. I had applied to so many places after I graduated Syracuse, but it was another thing that it was having me come back home and being able to start that part of the dream in Columbia, South Carolina was something that I felt deeply privileged and appreciative of. I could have ended up anywhere. There's 200 plus media markets across the country. And Columbia also was it was a top 100, a top 75 market. So it really wasn't something that you would typically go to right after getting your master's. You would start somewhere in the 100s, is what a bunch of professors used to tell me. But for me to be able to defy those odds and start in Columbia, South Carolina, start with a Monday through Friday position, which was also something that was very different for traditional local news journalists. A lot of times, by way of experience, most of us had to enter into journalism by way of a weekend shift. But my first job was a Monday through Friday. I was a morning anchor for a 4-hour show. It was Watch Fox 57. And when I think about all the different things that were set up for me to succeed at that station, it was nothing but God that got me there and started my position. It was the newsroom where I had a Black news director. We had Black anchors, Black photographers, Black reporters. It was a newsroom that was highly reflective of me too, when it came down to race, which was something that was not easy to come by, even nearly 10 years ago in local news. So I think all those things added up. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And it also was like, it gave me such confidence because I had been doing things that I said I was going to do, but it was completely different when now so many other people within my family and my friends and my hometown were also seeing the reflection of discipline and hard work and manifestation and speaking life into your dreams. So that's a very layered question, but that's a long story long. It means a ton to me. It means a lot to me. It gave me such a strong foundation, a beautiful start, and really laid down the ability for me to have the versatility that I now get to experience within life.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. All right. So, as far as journalism, can you kind of give everyone I guess, a map of where it's kind of taking you?
Yeah. So let's see. Journalism's taken me to Syracuse, New York. It's taken me to Washington, D.C., after Washington, D.C., Columbia, South Carolina. But actually, while I was in Washington, D.C., my content, I was working for 2 stations in Louisiana. So Shreveport and Baton Rouge. So I guess if we start back, it would be New York, D.C., Shreveport, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Columbia, South Carolina, Jacksonville, Florida, and then Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay. All
So,
right.
yeah.
So along that journey, I know now you do some modeling as well.
Mhm.
So when did that ever come into the equation for you, or that idea come about for you?
Yeah, so actually, I've been modeling now for 7 going on 8 years. My first modeling opportunity was actually presented to me in Columbia, South Carolina, when I was starting my first traditional local news job. So I paired journalism and modeling. Modeling was my hobby, journalism was my career. However, that continued to build for me, and I started to work with more brands. When I worked in Jacksonville, Florida, I definitely what's the word, I made my portfolio much larger because I started working with hair companies and clothing companies and fitness companies. But I still was a journalist. My journalism career was still my career. Modeling was still a hobby. Well, last November, almost a year to the date, I reached a point in journalism where after a decade, the sacrifices were not worth the rewards for me. I was having to say no to a lot of other creative projects beyond modeling. And journalism at a time, what was once the dream and the love and the passion, the thing I poured time, talent, treasure, sweat, tears, have worked endlessly to get to was no longer giving me the fulfillment that I had when I started. And I had to make a decision back in November of 2023. It was either leave Indianapolis and go and find a different journalism job and reset up myself in yet another city, or leave journalism in the traditional local news sense and completely restructure, reimagine my life and go after every single thing that was a creative passion. Everything that I had ever let news block me from doing was removed. And so a year ago, I pivoted and said, you know what? I model for fun, but I'm about to turn this up and I'm going to do this as a profession. And I told myself when I left news that for the rest of my life, I was going to get paid to be a vibe. Whether that vibe was being on a commercial set, being in front of a camera, being in a magazine, hosting an event, teaching fitness, being a professor, that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to have freedom and I wanted to be paid to be a vibe. And I knew that I had the skill set and the ability to navigate into a completely different industry. And so now for the past year, I've been doing it professionally. I've added runways to my level of expertise with modeling. And within my first year of doing runways, I started teaching myself how to walk on runways back in December of 2023. And within the past now 11 months, I have walked in Paris, Miami, New York. I've had castings that have taken me, to a couple of different cities as well. I've done 10 runway shows. I've walked for 15 designers. I've done commercial work, print work. And honestly, it's beautiful. I'm so thankful that I had the foundation that I have in journalism. It's really what prompted the ability to be so adaptable and to network and to know my skill set and know my value within the modeling industry, another industry that's oversaturated, just like news. And I find myself very blessed that I get to live every single dream without having a block. There's no more like, oh yeah, like I'm doing journalism and I have this contract and I might not be able to do this, or maybe once I get to the next market, I'll be able to pursue this dream. God cleared every type of block so I could have my own platform. And it's been a crazy year. It's been a hard year. But when it comes to hard things that move your life forward, I would take this year 10 times over.
Okay. All right. So needless to say, that at that point where you were trying to decide which one you would want to lean towards, that was like the moment where you were like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Indianapolis, Indiana, I'd never visited this city before July of 2022. I came up here for the first time when I had my interview. The city was cute. I never expected to come back for a job. And so then moving back to Indianapolis, less than 2 months after I visited for the first time, my first year here, the 13 months that I was here and working for news, I fell so in love with this city, from the community to the culture, to the food, to the outdoors aspects, all the different events that come through Indy, being here in the Midwest and being able to connect to other areas within the Midwest by car very easily. There are so many things about this city I loved. Also, it was affordable. I was moving from Jacksonville, Florida. So for us to be able to move here and the affordability and also the small town feel of the Midwest. However, last November, my parents were like, baby girl, that job did not work out. So you need to leave Indianapolis. Like, you don't have any family there. I had only been working in the news aspect for 13 months here. So it wasn't like, I was building a community and it was building at a rate that moves, as you're being a journalist. I was boots on the ground, always involved in community events. And that's really how I came to love Indianapolis. But last November, my parents are like, you need to leave. I had a non-compete. So even when I left my previous station, I couldn't work in news for a whole year. So my parents were like, this is your career. This is the thing you've been working for half your life. And now you can't do it for a year. How are you going to survive in a city that you moved to, in which I was supposed to be working said contract through 2025? So to have that abruptness, to have to pivot, to have to change. And I told my family back then, I was like, I can't explain it, but I have to stay in Indianapolis. I have to stay in Indianapolis. Like, the city is amazing. I know that I'm not going to be working in journalism as I have the past decade, but there is something for me in this city. And now being 3 days out from my year anniversary of making this pivot, my network has quadrupled in Indianapolis. The amount of opportunities I've gotten over the past year. I'm deeply involved in the wellness, arts, music, fashion, culture spaces. The amount of people I've met, the amount of experiences, and the freedom that I've been able to have over the past year. I'm so thankful that I betted on me. I'm so thankful that I didn't let outside opinions or beliefs about a period in my life steer me from leaving too soon. I had to let myself cook here. And now it's so beautiful because my network far expands whatever types of connections or community that I built even within news. And I thought that news was going to give me the, the outreach. Like, it's the news station. Like, this is going to be the thing that allows me to connect with people. Child, God said, baby, you are the platform. I just need you to stay in position. So I'm glad that I stayed in position. My life over the past year has been truly a movie. And I'm very blessed and grateful that I get to live my dreams intentionally and with purpose. And I don't have to decide which box I want to be in today. I get to do all the things.
Nice. Well, we're going to dive into that switch of careers and kind of, I guess, pivot, I should say. After the commercial break, we're going to dive into that a little bit more on This Woman Works.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on This Woman Works with Lena Pringle. Now, before the break, you were talking about your pivot, and that could definitely be something that is considered a challenge or probably one of your biggest challenges. So can you take us to that moment when you were, thinking of making that pivot and how challenging it may have been kind of mentally or for people around you to kind of see?
Yeah, the pivot was definitely a challenge because the pivot was forced upon me at that time. I hadn't thought that I was going to leave journalism, and had the situation not happen the way that it did, I would not have left. I would have stayed. I would have continued to take breadcrumbs. I would have continued to take a bunch of sacrifices and not get rewards. A year ago, my leaving from news was forced on me because the previous place in which I was employed essentially told me that I wasn't good enough. They told me I hadn't done anything positive for the station in the year that I've been there. I didn't have good camaraderie with my coworkers, and essentially things I had never heard. I have never been fired from a job. I have worked since I was 13 years old. And so when this happened to me last November, truth be told, I was devastated. I was hurt. I moved my whole life up here. I had just started to get to know so many people in the community. My network was growing here. I genuinely loved the work that I was doing. But I also was a person that came in and outshined a lot of people that have been doing what I had been doing for quite much longer. And I think that unfortunately, the light that I had at that time, I did not realize it because I came to serve. I came with an assignment, and I felt very blessed to be doing what I was doing, working where I was working, around the people that I was working with. And last November, God said enough is enough. And by pure protection, because at the time it seemed like such a loss. It seemed like, oh my goodness, I have worked my whole life for stability. I've worked to make sure that I have my finances in order. I went to college. I did the jobs. I did the internships. I worked the 90 hours. I did all this stuff to finally get to a position where I thought that I would have been protected by my hard work, by my reputation, by my spirit, by my willingness to show up. And when I realized that that was not appreciated, and the forcing of pushing me out pushed me into my dreams. And the beautiful thing about it is, now looking back, that was such a crazy time. And I remember, like, my friends and my parents, and shout out to one of my best friends, Andrea, at the time when she found out, she was like, write down all the things you want to do. Write down all the things now that you have the freedom to do. Write them down and focus on that. Like, this chapter is ending and it is time to start something new. And so at that time, I was like, my God, like, I don't have all the stability. Like, I don't have all the things that I usually like to have before making a decision. Like, I'm a very planning type of person. I've always been in control. I've known where I was going to go, how I was going to get there, and how long I was going to be there. And so for this to happen last November, and to completely have to reinvent yourself in a city that you are not from, and a city that you don't have no family, no other immediate options for work, my survival and my thriving of Indianapolis is a direct result of the very reputation that got me here, that I have great camaraderie, that I am good at what I do, that I work phenomenally with people, and I spread inspiration and positivity wherever I go. So being able to be removed from a place that kept me confined, and to being able to be released into so much more. All I lost last year was a job. Okay. I was a journalist that kept going, baby. And now that journalist also said, oh, well, let me do this, and that, because I spent too much time going after one dream. And I love that dream. And I'm grateful for the foundation, will always be forever grateful for journalism. But at some point, I deserved more out of my life. And so I know me, I would have stayed right in that position. I would have hustled and I would have grown. And I'd be like, oh, you know what? In a few years, when I get to my next market, it'll be different. And then I would have got to that next market and been like, oh, well, in a few years, once I get to that market, it'll be different. Child, it was not going to be different. It was time to go. And so I wasn't going to go on my own fruition. So God said, he snatched me up by the edges I do not have and said, you will pivot. You will have grace in this testimony, and your story will then be used to tell other people that you're not as stuck as you think you are. You're not as confined as you think you are. And you actually have way more options than you give yourself credit for. And so now, me being able to share parts of my story and just how I survived, because it was not easy. And it has not been easy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I, like one of my friends, Monica McNutt, also a fantastic woman in sports. She told me a long time, it was like, you pick your hard. You can do hard things that move your life backwards, or you can do hard things that move your life forward. And I realized the past year has been very hard, from the financial instability to having to bet on myself, to having to pitch myself, to having people ghost me, to going to castings. I've been to numerous castings and I've gotten so many no's. I've gotten so many no's left and right. No this, no that, no this, no that. But I've also gotten a bunch of yeses. I've gotten a bunch of yeses. I got a yes that took me to Paris. I got a yes that took me to New York Fashion Week. I have gotten the yeses. And I think that now the beauty in this journey is how hard the pivot may be doesn't matter as much as the resilience to keep going. And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going because I believe my life and my dreams are worth the hard that I deem is necessary to move my life forward and change the trajectory of where we've been.
Wow. A word, and the church says amen. All right.
But we be preaching sometimes.
All right. So, you definitely touched on a lot of advice. So you said Andrea, and you also said Monica McNutt gave you some advice. Mm-hmm. Would you say that was the biggest piece of advice that someone gave you was within those two things? Or is there another bit of advice that you received that's probably your biggest bit of advice?
Oh, yeah, no. So my biggest piece of advice was from God, and it was to be still. It was to be still. I've lived a very busy, chaotic life over the past decade. What many don't know, you can see the success and see, all the highlights of achieving the dream. But there are certain costs that one must pay to achieve certain dreams. And the cost I was paying was by way of the detriment of my body. I was only averaging 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. over a decade, sometimes less than that. I wasn't getting any type of rest. I was, yes, really into fitness and wellness, but I wasn't prioritizing rest. I had very high levels of stress. I was very used to dealing with those types of news environments that were quick pace, high stress, versatility. And I did that for a decade, and I lived for that adrenaline. As a journalist, and also just as a natural person who's a curious soul and loves to travel and loves to try new things, the adrenaline of being a journalist is almost like a drug I didn't know I was addicted to over the past decade. That adrenaline to have to go and not get sleep and see the worst of the worst and then still see the best of the best and process it and keep going. Oh my gosh, I never took a moment to stop. And even last November, yes, I got great advice about moving my life forward and figuring out what I want to do. But the truth of the matter is the pivot and the dreams weren't birthed until I sat down, until I was still, until I actually rested. So from November of last year until first quarter this year, I mean, I've rested for the whole year, but to have intentional rest where there were no there were no options, there were no opportunities. I was not working November, December, January, those 3 months, I had to sit down. I had to be still. I had to pray. I had to really get focused on who are you outside of these titles? Who are you outside of the stress that you've created as the baseline of survival for you? Who are you when you actually get rest? Who are you when you actually prioritize the body that you want to continue to move and chase these dreams? What happens when you give it what it needs? What happens when you slow down, when you stop trying to get so much and do so much and be so much and figure out so much? So honestly, to be still, that was the best advice I could have ever gotten, because it was through the stillness that creativity was produced. It was through the stillness that new dreams were birthed. It was through the stillness that I got a real clear idea of the kind of life I wanted to live and what types of things I was never going to settle for again. So honestly, in the midst of major transitions, I have learned that the stillness that one has, that type of peace, the mental clarity, I'm not saying you got to take 3 months, okay? But even just to slow down before making decisions. Everything is not a rush. Nothing is a rush. You are always going to be exactly where you need to be when you need to be there. And understanding to trust that and not listening to societal expectations, your friends' expectations, your parents' expectations. Baby, stillness. Stillness gave me rest. Is how I'm now able to reap the rewards of the labor that I put so much time, talent, and treasure in. It's rest. There's no other way around it. I used to think, oh yeah, I'll rest when I'm gone. Baby, no, you'll be gone if you don't rest much sooner. So yeah, no, that's my best type of advice is be still. Start to get to know you. Start to get to know you and who you are without all of these extra things that society loves to put on us to give you or make you feel like you need additional value or worthiness. Who are you without all those? And then life gets a lot easier when you got a clear understanding of who you are and whose you are. So that's for me. I'm not going to tell everybody what to believe in, but for me and mine, that's what I do.
Okay. All right. Well, you kind of answered the advice you have for anyone trying to travel your path. I already know what that advice is going to be. So
keep going, baby. Keep trying, keep placing yourself in rooms where people are doing the things that you want to do. Keep visualizing it, but you got to do it. You got to do it. And you got to do it broke. You got to do it alone. You got to do it scared. You got to do it with just one step. You just have to do. I think too many times, especially pivots, can be so scary because people are thinking about step 99 before you ever do step 1. Baby, just start. Just start. The rest of life will come together and fall in place when you decide that you want more, when you decide that your worth is not a group discussion or a group project within some of the things that you've been considering. Like when you decide that, the world will align for what you are desiring and what you're in true alignment with. So I'm always encourage people to continue to get to know you because you matter. Your dreams matter. Your purpose matters. And it does not matter what your current reality looks like when it comes to getting and achieving that dream. Do not be distracted by what's around because that can change in a second. And I always remind people that none of this matters. None of this, all of this is temporary. Okay. So don't be distraught or lose focus because your reality doesn't match what the dream is desiring or what the dream is in your head. If I had waited for my reality to match my dreams or to match, me getting to the dreams. Oh Lord, I still be stuck on the couch from last November. You got to get up. You got to get up and just try. Just try. Everything is worth the try.
Right. That's right. That's right. Now I tell everyone that ever wants to do podcasting or anything like that, I can tell them, look, if you're waiting on the perfect mic, the perfect setup, the perfect payment for this, the perfect sponsors, the perfect guests, the perfect time to say something, you'll never get started. Your first project of starting is never going to be as good as your first show is never going to be as good as your 200 show or your 100 show or whatever. So try to explain that to people when they want to get started. I'm like, hey, just get started. That's it.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's great.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have reached the end of the show, but
already,
we are not all done yet. We do have the speed round. I got 10 random questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What's your favorite movie of all time?
Life. Yeah. That movie.
So many quotable things. So many quotable things in that movie.
Yeah. And watching that movie as like a kid and not understanding it, to then watching it so many other times as I've grown up, I'm like, okay, yeah, life really, through the comedy and just the raunchiness, it's a great movie about life. That's hard, but yeah, I think life. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite actress?
Viola Davis. Yeah, like learning her history, the things that she had to survive just to get to where she's at, that resiliency and redefining standards of beauty within Hollywood as a Black woman and as an aging Black woman who isn't going nowhere. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's boo. I like Viola. Yeah, okay.
All right. I will say that I definitely enjoy her social media.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Worst movie of all time?
I feel like any of those Sharknado movies, like I've never actually watched them, so I might be biased. But looking at anything that's just like, that ain't it for me. Like, that ain't it. Like seeing sharks jump out of the sky and me walking on the road and eating people while they're eating dinner, that just those are not my favorite kinds of movies. So
those movies were they were so bad they were good. No, they were those type of movies. So bad they're good. And then they kept making other ones too. And I'm like, okay, they're making like 3 of these. But it was funny to me.
Actual scary things are actual funny things. Like, don't make it. I don't know, but that's not my preference. But also I would have said like the Dumb and Dumber movies too, because I'm just really, that's not my type of comedy, but somewhere along those two. Yeah.
Gotcha. Give me all since we're around Halloween, give me the Saw movies. I can watch those all day. I love those movies.
I made it through like 3 of the Saw movies, and I can't believe there's like 9, 10 of them? 10? Oh my God.
Now the last one though is actually a flashback to actually the original Jigsaw. When he first got turned down somewhere, he went to Mexico, and then of course some foolishness happened, and he had to become Jigsaw on him again. So
Saw movies. But man, after that, I just can't deal with it's very graphic. Very graphic.
It's graphic, but it makes you think. That's what I think I like about it. It makes you think instead of actually just being a killer movie. And it just another one. I don't know if you've seen this one yet. It just came out on Hulu, Mr. Crockett. I don't know if you saw that.
It's another scary movie.
It's on Hulu, yeah, Mr. Crockett.
Okay.
It's basically like a guy on the TV. He's over there. A friend like you is a friend like me. It's a Black guy too, and he's yeah. Okay. And it's interesting. It's interesting. I'm actually I think well, never mind, I ain't gonna say that on here. But let's see. All right, let's see. Next question. Let me go to the next question. All right. Who would you like to sit down with, dead or alive, for dinner and pick their brain?
Oh man, I might have to sit down with Jesus. What up, big homie?
All right.
I need some conversation. I got some questions. Okay. Yeah, I would say that. I would say that for, well, I mean, because he's dead and alive. Alive. If somebody else,
Want me to come back to you on that one?
yeah, well, I know I got Jesus, but I'm just deciding if I want to, if it's Nelson Mandela, because I would love to sit down and talk to like a prominent historical figure that made drastic waves within humanitarian efforts. I would love to have. That's why I was like, love to talk to Nelson Mandela. Yeah, so so I'm gonna stick with Jesus for right now because I would like to chit chat with. I do got some questions, and I think that would be a cool
Okay.
event.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite food?
Oh, seafood. Yeah, I love my favorite seafood is crab legs. Okay. If I could get fresh steamed crab legs, I could eat them for the rest of my life. I love seafood and lobster tails
Okay.
and shrimp.
Okay.
Oh, I'm hungry.
Yeah, shrimp is always top of the line. Favorite vacation spot?
Oh, anywhere with a beach. Anywhere with a beach island. One of my favorite islands is Jamaica. I love that island, the culture, the people. Yeah, so anywhere that is next to a beach and that has sand is always going to be a top tier destination for me travel wise. And I'll take any beach as long as it's warm.
Okay. Okay. All right. Favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant. See, that's hard because I'm a foodie and I love food. And so, like, the favorites are hard for me too because it's like I got a favorite on a Monday that won't be the same on a Friday, you know? So, okay, can I give like a favorite kind of restaurant?
There you go. You can roll with that one.
So my favorite kinds of restaurants are like soul food restaurants, like deep South, big back soul food restaurants. Like I need the fried fish. I need the fresh barbecue. It's all things from the South, you know, being born and raised in the South and coming from a very country background. Any type of really, and not just the normal soul food. Okay, like I need your grandmother or your grandmother's friend. I need generations worth of people that have insight in that kitchen. So not just, you know, your new soul foods. I need this soul food to be dated back to the 1800s. Okay, that's how good I need it to be. Yeah. So any restaurant that's like that.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna throw a bonus question in there. Chitlins or no?
Oh man. Okay. So like my fam's real big into them, and I won't lie. Okay, I've had them before. Okay, I've had them. Is it by preference? No, but I also have decreased the amount of pork I eat in general. But they're really not that bad. Now I don't clean them. I don't do any of the prep work, but they are okay. And I will say though, I would prefer pig feet over chitlins.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna take chitlins all day and twice on Sunday because I like chitlins. I like chitlins.
Wow.
I love me some chitlins, even though I'm used to I don't only get them on holidays these times, but because it's almost like a special dinner you get on let's see. Who would play you in a biopic?
Oh.
Tough one, right?
Yeah, because see, it's like I wouldn't like even if I thought about it like visually, I don't know. Like I don't know like a current actress that like looks.
This one gets everybody. I would say I would give you one. I'll give you one. One of the woman in Why Did I Get Married that plays plays Michael J. White's wife in that one.
Oh, I don't know.
I can't remember what her name is, but it escapes me right now. But I would say, hey, either her or her twin. That could work.
People used to tell me like end of high school and like college time that I looked like Kerry Washington, but I've never been able to see it. I don't see it still. But who I would want to play me in a biopic, because a person who I just admire. I love Tiana Taylor. Okay.
Okay.
My body go like that. I be pushing in the gym. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, another actress that maybe looks like me. I don't know. I would have to. That's a hard one. Wow.
Yeah, it's usually a tough one for people when I ask them that question.
Yeah.
Um, Best childhood memory.
Uh, I think my best memories from childhood definitely come from my 14 years of playing soccer.
Hmm.
Um, there are so many amazing memories from that time, but I know in 10th grade, I got to go to Panama. My first time going out of the country, and it was for soccer, and it was my high school soccer team. And that experience really sparked the love for travel that's gotten me to now like 11 countries, 23 states. um that moment was beautiful, and being able to be a part of that was amazing. And then I think the other childhood favorite memory, my parents threw me like a surprise birthday party when I turned 6. And that's the last time I had a surprise birthday party, and that thing was lit. It was real cool. That was when I was 6 years old. And I remember being so mad at my parents all day because I thought they forgot about my birthday. And then I had this huge surprise birthday party with all my friends, all my cousins. And that's when I was 6 years old. And I haven't had a surprise birthday since. So yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah. So that was two
So
memories. Surprise
so note
birthdays and
people.
soccer. Mhm.
So note people.
No,
It's
no.
been some years. I think she wants a surprise birthday party
I
again.
was gonna say, yeah, do that. That might be nice. That was beautiful. That was beautiful at 6. Yeah, I need that
Okay.
energy again. Mhm.
Last question I got for you. One person you'd love to interview that you haven't interviewed.
Hmm. Asia Wilson. I would love
Okay.
to interview Asia with Carolina Connection, yes. But
Hmm.
with where we are right now in women's sports, and knowing that I followed her so much when she was at USC, and even before all of the hoopla within last year and this year, and to watch how she's risen. And honestly, maybe a two-part, Asia and Dawn. Because Dawn's done some
Hmm.
phenomenal things, and she be in the South Cags and be trying to run up on her and chit chat with her. But that type of discipline, that type of winner attitude, especially as a Black woman, defying odds within the spaces that they have found themselves in, and really changing the trajectory of women's basketball and sports, and really for them to, and having such deep connections to South Carolina. Yeah. Yeah. I would
Okay.
love to chat with him. Love it.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. My main question would be for Asia right now. It's like, okay, you and Bam, y'all kind of, doing this little little tag game of tag
Mhm.
on social media with each
Mhm.
other. I mean, you showing up at his little press conference or whatever, and him
Fun
showing up
stuff.
at your games, and you showing up at the Charlotte and Miami game too. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, man, cat's out the bag. Just go ahead and let it ride. Just say what
Yeah.
it is.
Mhm. See, that's
But
funny.
you know,
I want to
it
talk.
ain't it ain't
That's
for us.
hilarious.
It ain't for us to know. But hey,
Yeah, I would love to talk with them just about like leadership and what that looks like,
mm-hmm,
just as a woman, and being able to defy odds. And for Don, it's more or less like the inspiration. Like,
mm-hmm,
how do you, especially just a coach, and then going off of their record last year undefeated, and what Carolina's been doing this year, they just won a game like 128 to 45. 128 to 45. So
mm-hmm,
like that type of spirit, those are like once in a lifetime types of spirits. Like those are not like energies that are easily duplicated or replicated. So just in
mm-hmm.
a time where I feel like a lot of things are shifting for women, I believe 2025 is going to be a very historic year for women and beyond. And so I think that just understanding inspiration and legacy and what that looks like, especially from women that look like me, that would be dope. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, the speed round is over.
Ah,
You're off the hot seat there. All
that was
right, and we have
fun.
reached we have reached the end of the show. I want to thank you, Miss Lena Pringle, for coming on the show. Episode 27. I titled it "Walk This Way" because you definitely have walked in your purpose, in the way that you felt like things needed to go as well in the way that you feel that God has ordained them to be in your life. I want to give you the chance to tell everyone where they can find you on social media and all the things that you may be working on.
Yes. So you can find me on all social media handles at Lena Pringle _. It's the same on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, X, Facebook. Well, Facebook is Lena Pringle TV, but either way, once you type in Lena Pringle, it'll come up. Things that are coming up for me, I am preparing for my next runway shows that are going to be coming up near the end of November. I'm also prepping for a pageant that I'll be able to give more information on next year, but that's a completely new, different pivot within the pivot, pivoting within the pivot. So I'm very excited for that. I actually am going to be doing some more podcast interviews with a few different people. I'll be launching my own podcast in 2025, so I'm excited about that. And, I'm just going to keep finding ways to engage joy and live a bold, free, intentionally purposeful life. So wherever that takes me, I'm down for the ride. I have a few hosting gigs coming up as well. So, in the meantime, we're just going to continue to fall in alignment with a dream. I don't believe I'm chasing dreams. I'm not going to chase nothing, but I will fall in alignment with where I'm supposed to be. So yeah, I'm excited and blessed to be here. And if you ever need any advice or a connector, I like to consider myself a professional connector of people. So feel free to DM me. If I can't do it, I likely know somebody that can help. So I would love to serve and help as many people as I can as I continue to chart my own journey and path. So yeah, nothing too crazy, nothing too crazy. Just living day in and day out to the best of my ability and being kind in the process.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. Of course, for those that don't know, I'm the host of the show, Mr. Mike Patton. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter. Yeah, Word to Prince. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton 82. It's MikePatton 82. Of course, you can find me on Instagram and Threads at THA, not THE, _general_MP, touring the AFC South. There I go, talking about my other show, right?
Yeah.
But this woman works. This woman works. You can find it on, of course, the Mike Patton Network on YouTube. You can also find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. You name it, we are there. I want to thank you all for tuning in to this episode of This Woman Works. We're out. Peace.